Vampires appear in stories all over the world, different languages, different eras, different names, but they all describe the same thing, something human, but not quite human anymore. And if you look closely, these stories might not be about monsters at all. They might be about a version of us we don't want to recognize. Because there's one detail about vampires that people almost never question, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Hi everyone, and welcome to Diary of a Shadow Healer. I'm Starshade, and this is the place where your shadows find their voice. If you resonate with this video, please tap on that subscribe button and hit the little like button for me if you wouldn't mind. All right, let's begin. When most people think about vampires, they think about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Interview with the Vampire, the movie that shall not be named, Gothic castles, capes, bangs, but the idea of the vampire is much older than fiction. Romania has the strigoi. In Chinese folklore, there's the zhongxi, the hopping corpse or zombie, but it's their vampire version. In ancient Mesopotamian myths, there are blood-drinking and energy-draining creatures. Different cultures, same pattern. Something that looks human, but survives by taking the life force from others. So the real question isn't why do vampires exist in stories? It's why does the human mind keep recreating the same creature? Because psychology suggests something unsettling. Maybe the vampire isn't something we invented. Maybe it's a reflection we avoided. Let's look at this together and you can tell me what you think. The shadow is everything we refuse to admit about ourselves. Things like aggression, we don't want to be held accountable for. Envy, we don't want to admit to. Control, hunger, desire, obsession. The parts of us that don't fit the identity we try to maintain. So what do we as humans do? We ignore them. But what you reject doesn't disappear. It goes unconscious, and then it returns indirectly in dreams, in projections, in stories, in television shows about monsters. Because the mind doesn't speak in explanations, it speaks in symbols. And when a creative type or artistic person gets a symbol stuck in their head, they use it. Now let's put some fresh eyes on this and look at the vampire again. We're going to take away the evil part and let's just list the usual traits. The psychology of the beast, one might say. A vampire is immortal, forever young. It doesn't weaken easily. It's powerful, but only through consumption, a consumption they are driven by. They get to exist outside moral structure. Let's pause there, because that matters. That's not a monster. Those are unfiltered instincts. They get hunger without limits, desire without consequence, power without restrictions, the very things society teaches us to control or deny completely. So instead of expressing them, we disown them. And when something gets disowned long enough, it doesn't disappear, it becomes something else. So is a vampire perhaps the impulses we have when they're no longer filtered? Not destroyed, but uncontained. Before you decide though, there's more. There's another part, something that makes it even more captivating. Because vampires aren't just feared, they're desired. Think about True Blood or Vampire Diaries. And this detail, it isn't accidental. Lots of versions show the vampire as intelligent, charismatic, beautiful, magnetic. They don't attack randomly, they invite by drawing people in first. Now ask yourself why that matters and think about this. The shadow isn't just what we fear. It's also what we secretly want, what we were told we couldn't be. power without limits, freedom without responsibility, attention without effort. You can check out my video on the golden shadow for more information about that. But that's why the vampire doesn't just scare people, it fascinates them because part of the mind recognizes it in itself. However, there's a point here where it stops being symbolic and starts getting awkward because this doesn't just exist in myths anymore. Look at human behavior. When someone drains attention in a conversation without giving anything back, or when someone feeds off validation, admiration, or control, when someone takes emotional energy from others just to feel full. What does that sound like? Maybe the vampire isn't a fantasy version of us. Maybe it's a distorted version of behaviors we already live out, just subtle enough to be socially acceptable. And if that's true, then the difference between a human and a vampire isn't what we feel, it's what we allow ourselves to act on. That's why the vampire never disappears. Every generation brings it back. Different costumes, different settings, different interpretations, but the core remains because the psychological conflict hasn't changed. Humans still wrestle with the same tension: desire versus discipline, power versus morality, instinct versus identity. And the vampire sits right in the center of it. And maybe that's why it persists in storytelling. Not because we fear them, but because part of us understand them. So maybe we've been asking the wrong question. It's not why do they appear in stories all around the world. It's what part of us needed to create them. Because vampires aren't something we totally imagined. They're something we recognized and externalized. A symbol of what happens when the denied parts of human nature are unleashed without inhibitions. Because the most unsettling monsters aren't always outside of us. Sometimes they're the parts of us we never learned how to face, hidden, waiting, unintegrated. And when they appear in stories, they're not warning us about the world. They're revealing something about the mind that created them. That's when the question becomes, where in small, acceptable, everyday ways are you already living like one?